Some places seem almost too perfect to be real. Surrounded by the turquoise waters of the Caribbean, far from crowded cities and public attention, stood a small private island that looked like something taken from a luxury travel magazine. From above, it appeared peaceful. White beaches stretched along the coastline. Palm trees swayed in the tropical wind. Luxury villas overlooked the ocean, and everything about the island suggested exclusivity, wealth, and privacy. But appearances can be deceiving. This island belonged to Jeffrey Epstein, a wealthy financier whose lifestyle had long fascinated the public. Over the years, the island became a destination for carefully selected guests arriving by private aircraft and expensive yachts. Very few people knew what happened there. Even fewer were allowed to see it with their own eyes. To outsiders, it seemed like a paradise reserved for the rich and powerful, a place where influential people could escape the pressures of everyday life and enjoy complete privacy. Yet the secrecy surrounding the island only fueled curiosity. Why was security so strict? Why were visitors rarely seen or photographed? And why did so many stories about the island seem impossible to verify? For years, these questions remained unanswered. Most people had never heard of the island. Those who had often viewed it as nothing more than a luxurious private retreat. But behind the postcard-perfect scenery, rumors were beginning to emerge. At first, they appeared as whispers. Small stories passed between journalists, investigators, and former associates. Nothing substantial, nothing that could easily be proven. Yet as time passed, the whispers grew louder, and what began as scattered rumors would eventually become one of the most talked about scandals of the modern era. The island that once symbolized luxury and exclusivity was slowly becoming something else entirely. A place surrounded not by admiration, but by mystery, and that mystery was only beginning. For years, the island remained hidden behind a veil of privacy. From the outside, it looked like nothing more than an exclusive Caribbean retreat owned by a wealthy businessman. Luxury villas overlooked the ocean. Private beaches stretched along the shoreline. Guests arrived quietly and left just as quietly. Very few photographs ever emerged. Very little was publicly known. And that silence only made the island more mysterious. Employees who worked there rarely spoke to the media. Deliveries arrived regularly by boat. Private aircraft landed at nearby airports before visitors were transported to the island by helicopter or yacht. Everything appeared carefully organized to maximize privacy. For a long time, there was little public interest. Then, investigative journalists began connecting scattered pieces of information: court records, witness interviews, travel logs, financial documents. Individually, they revealed very little, but together, they began forming a much larger picture. As more people came forward with allegations involving Epstein, attention shifted toward the island itself. Reporters wanted to know who had visited. Investigators wanted to understand what had happened there. The public wanted answers. The island, once known only to a handful of people, suddenly became the center of international curiosity. What had once been marketed as a paradise of luxury was now being viewed through a very different lens. Every satellite image was examined. Every building became the subject of speculation. Every newly released document sparked another wave of questions. Whether every rumor was true or not almost became secondary. The mystery surrounding the island had already captured the world's attention. And the deeper investigators looked, the larger the story appeared to become. As public attention intensified, investigations accelerated. Law enforcement agencies collected evidence. Journalists continued interviewing witnesses. Civil lawsuits brought additional information into public view. Each new development added another piece to an increasingly complicated puzzle. The story was no longer about one individual. It had become a broader investigation into how someone could maintain such influence and secrecy for so many years. Around the world, television networks dedicated hours of coverage to the case. Newspapers published detailed timelines. Documentary filmmakers began retracing every known event. Meanwhile, online communities analyzed maps, flight records, photographs, and publicly available documents. The island itself became a symbol, not simply because of what was known, but because of everything that remained unknown. Questions continued to multiply. How much had investigators uncovered? How much information had never been documented? And how many people possessed pieces of the story that had yet to be revealed? As pressure mounted, the carefully crafted image surrounding Epstein's private world began to collapse. The walls of secrecy that had protected it for years were slowly falling apart. What had once seemed untouchable was now under the microscope of the entire world. But before many of those questions could be answered, the case took an unexpected turn that shocked millions of people. In August 2019, headlines around the world reported breaking news. Jeffrey Epstein had been found dead inside his jail cell while awaiting trial. The official ruling concluded that his death was a suicide. For many, that should have marked the end of the story. Instead, it marked the beginning of another mystery. The circumstances surrounding his death immediately became the subject of intense public debate. Questions were raised about jail procedures, about staffing, about security protocols, about whether every detail of that night had been fully understood. Authorities maintained their official findings, yet public discussion continued. Books were written. Podcasts explored the timeline. Documentaries revisited the evidence. The internet became flooded with competing theories, many of which remain unverified. Separating documented facts from speculation quickly became one of the greatest challenges surrounding the case. What is certain is that Epstein's death ensured many questions would remain unanswered. Any information known only to him could no longer be clarified. Investigations continued. Court proceedings involving other matters moved forward. Documents continued to be released over time. But for many observers, the central figure in one of the world's most controversial cases was suddenly gone. And with him disappeared the possibility of hearing his complete account of events. The mystery had not ended. It had simply changed its form. Years have passed since Jeffrey Epstein's death. The headlines have faded. The television crews have left. And yet, the island continues to attract attention from around the world. From the air, almost nothing appears different. The turquoise waters still surround the coastline. The luxurious villas remain standing. Palm trees continue to sway under the Caribbean sun. It looks peaceful, almost untouched. But appearances can be deceiving. Today, the island carries a reputation that can never be erased. It is no longer remembered as an exclusive tropical getaway. Instead, it has become one of the most recognizable symbols of secrecy and controversy in modern history. Journalists still revisit the story. Documentary filmmakers continue searching for overlooked details. Researchers examine thousands of pages of public records, hoping to uncover new information or better understand the events that unfolded over the years. Every few months, newly released documents or court filings bring the case back into public discussion. Sometimes they answer old questions. More often, they raise new ones. That is what makes this story so unusual. It is not only about what investigators discovered, it is also about everything they could never fully explain. How much of the truth is already known? How much remains hidden? And how many questions will never receive definitive answers? Those mysteries continue to fuel endless debate. Some people believe the case has already revealed everything that matters. Others believe there are still missing pieces waiting to be uncovered. Whatever the truth may be, one fact is impossible to deny. A small private island in the Caribbean became one of the most infamous locations on Earth. A place once associated with luxury and privacy is now remembered for mystery, investigation, and unanswered questions. Perhaps one day, new evidence will emerge. Perhaps forgotten documents will surface. Or perhaps the complete truth disappeared forever with those who knew it. Until that day comes, Epstein Island will remain exactly what it has become. Not simply a place on a map, but one of the greatest mysteries of the modern era. Some places become famous because of their beauty, others because of their history, but a rare few become unforgettable because they leave behind more questions than answers. Epstein Island is one of those places. A small island in the Caribbean that became the center of one of the most controversial stories of the 21st century. Years have passed. Investigations have concluded. Countless reports have been published, yet the mystery continues to live on. Perhaps the full truth is already known. Perhaps parts of it are lost forever. Only time will tell. If you enjoy documentaries that explore the world's greatest mysteries, disappearances, and unsolved stories, subscribe to the channel, because our next investigation may lead us somewhere even darker.